Think about the car sitting in your driveway right now, or maybe the bike you ride to work. If it was made before 2016, there's a good chance the fuel sitting inside your tank at this very second is quietly eating away at the engine. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive storm of consumer, auto, and political news that literally impacts almost everyone on the road. It's a completely invisible threat, but one you absolutely need to know about before your next trip to the fuel pump.
So, let me ask you straight up. Was your vehicle manufactured before 2016? If the answer is yes, you really want to pay attention to this. For months now, millions of drivers across India have been dealing with a super frustrating mystery. The current fuel you're pumping into your vehicle every single day, it could actually be dissolving the internal rubber parts of your engine. And that means sudden breakdowns and some seriously heavy repair bills that just seem to come out of nowhere.
This isn't just a theory. The invisible threat is very real. People all over the country have been reporting their mileage dropping, engines sputtering right in the middle of traffic, and getting slapped with unexpected repair bills that even mechanics couldn't easily explain. Well, the mystery is officially over. After months of rumors, the government actually admitted what's happening. Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari confirmed in Parliament that running older BS3 vehicles on the new E20 blended petrol can, in fact, cause serious material damage to internal rubber gaskets and fuel lines.
Section 1. E20 Petrol and the official admission. Before we get into the heavy details, let's just get our baseline facts straight. What exactly is this fuel? Well, E20 petrol is basically a mix. It's 80% standard fossil petrol, the regular fuel we've used forever, and 20% plant-based ethanol. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari recently submitted a written statement to the Rajya Sabha to address the growing concerns about this exact blend. He needed to clarify what pouring a 20% ethanol mix into our tanks is actually doing to our vehicles.
Now, here's the good news. Extensive government studies show that modern cars, specifically the BSV vehicles made after 2020, are completely fine. Automakers knew this fuel change was coming, so they built modern engines with updated materials. They don't see any major damage or performance drops. But legacy BS3 vehicles, which were introduced way back in 2005 and made up until 2016, well, they face a very real risk. They were built for a totally different era of pure petrol, which means their older rubber components can face severe material degradation when exposed to ethanol.
Section 2. The chemistry of E20 petrol. First off, let's talk about what we're actually mixing into our fuel here. Ethanol is basically an organic alcohol. It's made mostly by fermenting agricultural stuff like sugarcane juice, molasses, and surplus food grains. And on a macro level, blending this into our petrol is a brilliant green strategy. By growing our own fuel, we slash India's massive multi-billion-dollar foreign crude oil import bill. Plus, it gives a huge financial boost to local sugarcane farmers, and it significantly cuts down on those harmful carbon emissions polluting our cities.
But if it's so great, why does it hurt older cars? Well, think about the chemistry like this. Standard fossil petrol acts kind of like gentle water inside a sturdy plastic bottle. It just doesn't react with conventional rubber. But ethanol? Ethanol acts way more like a harsh industrial paint thinner. If you pour paint thinner into a cheap plastic bottle, within days the plastic is going to soften, warp, melt, and start leaking. And that is exactly how the alcohol in E20 interacts with the older, untreated rubber fuel hoses and plastic O-rings inside those legacy cars.
On top of that, ethanol is what chemists call hygroscopic. In plain English, that means it actively absorbs water vapor right out of the surrounding air. So when a heavy 20% ethanol blend sits inside an older vehicle's fuel tank for days or weeks at a time, it literally pulls atmospheric moisture right into the tank. This creates a slightly acidic alcohol and water mix that just sits there, slowly eating away at vintage rubber hoses, softening up gaskets, and eventually causing really frustrating and honestly potentially dangerous fuel leaks.
Section 3. Joint studies and the political debate.
When questions started popping up about whether older vehicles could handle this fuel, Minister Gadkari didn't just guess. He pointed to rigorous joint studies done by some serious technical heavyweights. We're talking about the Indian Oil Corporation, the Indian Institute of Petroleum, the Automotive Research Association of India, and the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. These top-tier researchers ran engines for thousands of hours. They proved that modern engines pass all emission standards without a single modification. But when they ran long-term tests on legacy vehicles, the physical degradation of those older rubber parts was scientifically proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, the exact phrasing the government used to acknowledge this is really interesting. Minister Gadkari stated, "Only in case of testing done on BS3 vehicles, Some rubber parts and gaskets may require replacement, which can be easily managed during routine servicing regime of the vehicle. He's walking a bit of a tightrope here. He formally acknowledged the scientific reality that parts are degrading, while at the same time trying to reassure everyone that this isn't some unmanageable crisis where you have to go scrap your old car.
But wait, what about the mileage? Because beyond leaks, a lot of drivers are loudly complaining about a noticeable drop in fuel efficiency after filling up with E20. Well, the testing agencies clarified that this 2 to 6% drop in mileage is completely normal and honestly to be expected. Why? Because ethanol just naturally has less energy density than pure petrol. Think of it like food. Alcohol burns with less calorific energy per liter than petroleum. It's kind of like eating a light salad instead of a dense protein bar. To go the exact same distance, your car simply has to burn a little more fuel. A minor drop in efficiency is just the scientific reality of using this greener blend.
Despite all these scientific explanations, a pretty fiery national debate has kicked off. On one side, the government and oil companies point out that this isn't a sudden shock. It's a phased, scientifically validated green transition. They've had NITI Aayog roadmaps laid out since 2021, and they argue it's an absolutely necessary growing pain to hit vital energy self-reliance and global climate goals. But on the exact opposite side, critics and opposition leaders are sounding the alarm over the sheer scale of the collateral damage. They highlight that nearly 30 crore older vehicles are currently on the road at risk of accelerated wear. They point out the lack of alternative non-blended fuel options at the pumps for these older cars, and that auto manufacturers are pretty hesitant to issue warranties covering ethanol damage for legacy vehicles. In this explainer, we aren't taking sides, but it's crystal clear that this is a super complex transition trying to balance massive national green goals with very real, everyday consumer anxieties.
Section 4. Protecting your older vehicle. So, what does this actually mean for your daily life? And more importantly, your wallet? If you drive a legacy BS3 vehicle made before 2016, there is absolutely no need to panic, sell your car, or worry that your engine is going to blow up on the highway. You just need to be a little proactive with your maintenance. During your next regular service visit, specifically ask your mechanic to do 3 things. First, inspect your rubber fuel lines to see if they're softening. Second, check the rubber fuel pump seals for microcracking. And third, examine the carburetor or injector gaskets for weeping leaks. Swapping out a cheap aging rubber fuel hose during a routine service is incredibly cheap. Ignoring it until it bursts and ruins your whole fuel pump, that will cost you thousands.
Next, let's talk about how you can easily offset that annoying 2 to 6% efficiency loss we talked about earlier. Since the ethanol blend naturally has lower energy, you just have to make sure the rest of your vehicle is running flawlessly to compensate. You can claw back that lost mileage by keeping your tires inflated to the exact recommended pressure that reduces unnecessary road friction. Also, replace your air filters regularly so the engine breathes easier without struggling, and consciously avoid aggressive, hard acceleration at green lights. I know these sound like basic, boring driving habits, but they make a massive difference in minimizing the financial impact of higher ethanol blends.
Section 5. The green transition ahead.
Ultimately, knowledge is your absolute best protection here. Moving away from fossil fuels to green alternatives like ethanol is an essential growing pain for India's long-term environmental health. While E20 petrol is completely safe for modern engines and a vital step forward, legacy vehicle owners just need to understand the chemistry and make those easy, proactive rubber replacements to stay safe on the road. Now that you fully understand the science of E20 and the government stance, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. As our green infrastructure rapidly evolves, should fuel pumps be legally required to offer separate, non-blended petrol specifically to protect those 30 crore older engines? It's a massive logistical challenge, but a highly important question for millions of drivers. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the science behind the headlines.